Well, this is our 100th episode, Mark. Amazing, huh?
Amazing. Absolutely. And more than just 100th episode, it's 100 without a break.
True.
We haven't missed a single week. 100 weeks straight. No pause, no skip. Nobody got, we've been late. We've been a day late or a couple days late.
We had to reschedule once or twice, I think,
Yeah.
because you were out of town or whatever the
Right.
case.
But we have not missed a week. We have had a podcast go out every Tuesday morning. What time do they go live over on Spreaker and get sent out?
6:30 in the morning Eastern time, so that the rest of the country wakes up to a hot cup of Joe and Trampled
Underfoot. That's right. Okay. Well, yeah, 100 episodes, and I'm still headband free.
That's
I
so
had to
true.
put that in. I had to put that in the promo because Jim Dockerell's been dogging me about it, and so it's like, well, will he wear it? Did he get one? He went to Walmart today and looked for one, but he couldn't find any.
It's my hope. It's my hope that one day, maybe 100, 200 years from now, in said future, that elevator music will also include podcasts. And for whatever reason, after long gone that we might be, we'll be sitting there talking about medieval history plus how rock and roll affected the social economics of a little town in middle America, in the 21st century, excuse me.
I need to do some serious looking for one of those headbands. I need to go ahead and order one online because I might bring that look back.
Well,
probably I won't, but stranger things have happened.
That's how it starts, man. One person takes on carries the torch, and people criticize, and all of a sudden you have a whole trend blowing up.
Yeah, that's it. And blowing up being the operative term.
I do want to, because we have a pretty exciting for you rockers out there. We do have a pretty exciting show this evening, but I'd like to also mention at the top of the hour here that our good friend Steve Nealon from Harneal Media, that's harnealmedia.com. Well, he's been out of sorts. He's been sick. He's in the hospital, actually, and he's having a hard patch, let's say. He's being taken care of, but you tell me, Mark, what do you think?
Well, it's already been made public, so it's not a secret from anyone. Steve had a major heart attack, and in fact, had to have triple bypass surgery today. Or take that back. It was yesterday he had his surgery.
Yeah.
He made it through okay. He's doing fine. Got a message from Pam, his wife, today. He is he's feeling better, but he's still in a little bit of pain, as you can imagine. Triple bypass, that is major open heart surgery here. So she said that he was up in most of the day, sitting up most of the day. They're gonna get him in a chair tomorrow, and then hope to have him walking Thursday. And said that he's going to be, they're not sure, it just depends on how well he does. It'll be anywhere from 3 to 10 days before he can be released. So all of us at the Trampled Underfoot and everybody in the Makers Media Network and all of our friends, we wish them absolutely nothing but the best. A GoFundMe has been started for his wife, as he is not actually pulling in an income now because he physically can't. They need some help with day-to-day expenses and paying the bills and what have you. So there's a link to the GoFundMe down in the description of this here on YouTube. I will also make sure it goes in the description of the podcast over on our website, trampledunderfootpodcast.com. sponsored by Steve Nealon over at Harneal Media. And I'll put it on our Facebook page. Go to Facebook, look for Trampled Underfoot Podcast, and I'll make sure that there's a link there as well. So if you can help a brother out, he's done a lot for the maker community behind the scenes. He has donated quite a bit to other folks who are having a hard time. And these two are special to me. I would consider it a personal favor if you help a brother out.
And we also linked it over in the chat on the side there for future reference of people that hear, and many people have been helping as well. So
yes,
it's very we're thankful for that,
yes.
for him. So get well, Steve, and we're here rooting for you, and we know that you're in a bit of an uncomfortable and in a little bit of pain and stuff. So we're thinking of you. I do want to now continue with the show and just mention that Snow Crusher said, do you wear the headband over or under your headphones?
I think you wear it instead of headphones. Probably why I haven't put one on yet. I don't know. I'd have to try both looks just to see which one I prefer. I think under, because, well, then again, this may get complicated because I got glasses. I would have a headband and have the headphones. I don't know. That's a lot of stuff for these ears. So we'd have to see what happens. I don't know. I'd have to try it on. More will be revealed later on.
All right.
So Eloy and I got together, kind of, sort of, and said, you know what, 100 episodes, that's a heck of a milestone. What should we do? And so we started thinking of brainstorming, and it's like, well, we've already done our top 5 albums of all time. We've already done our bottom 3 albums of all time, our biggest disappointments. We could go in another direction and go movies. We could go in another direction and go TV shows. But then decided, now, what the heck? Let's stick with the music because that's the main thing that he and I have in common. And I got to thinking, well, wait a minute. Do you have a list of 10 tunes that when they come on the radio, you just automatically reach over and you have to crank that volume up? You have to turn that up. So I don't know if this would be your top 10 favorite tunes, but maybe your top 10 favorite rockin' tunes, the ones that make you feel good, get you going. You just have to reach over. It's guaranteed the volume is going up.
The ones that when you get in the car and you hear them, you like, oh, I gotta take it down the highway.
This has got to go up, and the go faster pedal is going to get pushed a little bit.
The one that you hear while you're driving down the highway and you see the police sirens and see the lights behind you, and you just say screw it, and you press it to the metal, and you just go over like the embankments and stuff into the next area, and they're following you and tasering and
I don't think I have any of those.
While you're trying to get to the Music Hall of Fame, and you slide into the parking lot and run in there and reach up to Jimi Hendrix and grab the statue by the foot, and they're dragging your butt out. That kind of music impulse.
See, you went from Dukes of Hazzard to Smokey and the Bandit to Cannonball Run in one sentence. There might have been a little bit of Terminator in there too. I don't know. But anyway, so I posed the question to Eloy, what do you think? And he said, yeah. So that's what we have for our 100th episode is each of us pick 10 tunes that we think are our favorites to get us going, get us moving, and are guaranteed to have that volume knob turned way up.
All right, so let's do this. Let's get into it.
You want to go first? You want me to go first? What?
No, well, I mean, however, you're the one that came up with the idea, so tell me, lead us.
Okay, let's hear your number 10. We'll start at the bottom of the list. Let's hear your number 10.
Okay, we've been waiting for this because we've known that we wanted to do this for a while. So the first one is categorized, although I don't know exactly that it would be, but this is what it's categorized under. It's under jazz as the genre, but in reality, it's more of an R&B in my opinion, and you'll let me know if that's true. The album is 100% soul, is what it's called, and the artist is Jackie Wilson. And the song is "Your Love Keeps Lifting Me Higher and Higher" by Jackie Wilson. That's my number 10 pick. Your love is lifting me higher. That one.
I gotta say, I've heard several versions of that tune. I like Jackie Wilson's absolutely the best. That does surprise me. I don't know that it would be categorized as jazz though, and that has more of a Motown feel to me.
That's what I was thinking. But it does, when I hear it, I'm like, hell, yo, love. And I'm like, it gets me going. So whenever I hear that song, that's one song that it doesn't necessarily come on all the time. Right. That when I do hear it come on, I'm like, heck yeah, Jack. Yeah, let's do it. So that's that. I don't know where I got my ghetto. Yeah.
But see, that's the whole thing. Just thinking about the song and singing the few lyrics you've done, it has got that going.
That's true.
That's exactly the whole point of this entire list. Jackie Wilson. Yeah. Wow.
What's your number 10?
Okay. My number 10, Back in Black by AC/DC.
Whoa. Interesting.
Yeah. It's just for some reason, because I was a fan of AC/DC with the Bon Scott years.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden Back in Black came out, and I was going to buy the album. I'd never heard anything off of it yet. And my brother had. And put it on, and that Back in Black was the one that hit me the hardest. I mean, the whole album rocks. The whole album is great. But that one particular, I don't know why it hit so hard, but it did. Just that opening riff maybe is what did it. Dum, da-da-dum, da-da-dum. And that just right there, boom, it hit, and it hit hard. And that song right there is why that saying exists. I don't always listen to AC/DC, but when I do, so do my neighbors.
Yeah.
Because the volume is going up. That's all there is to it. And then Brian Johnson comes in and hits hard with that voice, and that's all there is to it. The volume is going up, and I feel good.
Good pick. Good pick. All right. Continue.
So, okay. Oh, you want?
Well, you're the director here. I'm like, I don't want to.
We can go for number 9. I mean, if you have any disagreement or if you have any comments or anything.
I agree completely with it. I think it's a great song, and yeah, you can't beat Back in Black. The album, the whole album is a rockin' phenomenon. I'll tell you, I can't. I have nothing else but to say yes. I agree for sure.
Well, the album or the song, put it to you this way, it was released in 1980. I've done a little bit of research on this, and it was voted in Australia number 22 of the most Australian songs of all time.
And it is true.
Yeah. And, they kind of agree with me here on the opening riff, these people in Rolling Stone magazine. It ranked number 187 on their list of 500 greatest songs of all time. And the Metal Hammer magazine said that opening riff is one of the greatest riffs ever written. There are rock songs that appeal to metal fans, and there are metal songs that appeal to rock fans. Then there's Back in Black that appeals to everybody. So, I mean, where can you go from there?
Well, we can go to number 9.
Okay, what's your number 9? And
see how you can top that, because frankly, now I can't necessarily top that one with my number 9. And I don't know if you would have ever, you probably wouldn't have ever, but
it's not a competition.
the genre
Mhm.
that they categorize, and I'm adding these because it's what they categorize, it would be pop,
Uh-huh.
but it's really not pop at all. But that's what they, in fact, I'll stop adding the genre that they qualify these as.
Uh-huh.
Anyhow, this song was released in 1983. It's
Uh-huh.
from the album An Innocent Man by Billy Joel. And the song is the track Krista Lee, or Christy Lee, let's say.
I don't think I've heard it.
It's the story of a woman and a man, and he was a saxophone player, and she was too much for him to handle. And it's a rocker, a la basically like 1950s Little Richard. It's a great song. I used to, so I love that album, the whole album, but and it's a harping back to a time of 1950s doo-wop and like the bands that they had and all that. And that song is kind of like the one of the rockers, probably the most rockin' one on that album. And he's piano playing, he's Billy Joel. Um, It'll get you moving because he's telling a story. It's a rockin' song. It's kind of like what you'd hear. Boy, you'd have to listen to it. I don't know if anybody out there knows the song Crystal Lee, but yeah, that's my pick.
And it's one of those that's guaranteed. If you happen to hear it come on, you're turning it up.
Well, he starts off, let me tell you a story about a woman and a man. And they start playing, dun, 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 and like he always bring his saxophone into play. And she appeared one night at the bar, and he's telling the story. And it's going, ding, 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 and it's constant. And the recording, so he's pushing it, sort of like Little Richard, but it's modernized in its recording capabilities, quality, let's say. And so, yeah, it's a la, who could I say? Huey Lewis and the News, when they rocked out. It's got that it's within that rock and roll, bringing back the 50s in a modernized 1980s sound. So that's my pick. And I used to play, I mean, I would jump around and bop around when I heard that song play, and I'd play the whole album again and again. So that's my number 9.
That's your number 9. Okay. Mine, and these are not always necessarily fast songs. Back in Black has kind of a slow tempo for something to get your blood pumping that hard. This next one, I spent probably, it came out in 1970, so I was 9 years old. But I spent probably the next 20 to 25 years not knowing the name or the performer who did it. So I couldn't go out and buy the record. And it's probably a good thing because, well, anyway, it's I Hear You Knockin' by Dave Edmunds. Now, it was released in 1970. The original was done in 1955 by Smiley Lewis.
How's it go?
I hear you knocking, but you can't come in.
Okay.
It's been covered by a ton of people like Fats Domino.
Little Richard.
And in fact, the Fats Domino version I thought was the original. But Dave Edmunds changed it up a little bit and went to, instead of that, I hear you knocking, that Fats Domino did, it was, I hear you knocking. And he put it to a rock and roll beat. And he's singing what sounds like into a megaphone on an old time ribbon mic in the verse. And then he jumps into the chorus, and there's some echo and reverb there in the background during the chorus. And it just had a completely different feel. And that was always my favorite version of that tune.
Is it the same song as Little Richard's? I hear you knocking, but you can't come in.
That's Keep a Knocking, but you can't come in.
It's Keep a Knocking.
Yep. This was you went away and left me long time ago, but now you're knocking on my door. I hear you knocking, but you can't come in.
It sounds familiar. I think, are we going to do something for because we have a Facebook page, and it's Trampled Underfoot Podcast on Facebook. We usually post what we talk about. Are we going to post some of that stuff, or?
We can, if you'd like. I can throw this one over there because most folks have probably never heard of Dave Edmunds. He's a Canadian performer, excellent. I mean, in fact, when I found out he did this, I went back and found some of his stuff. He's got a lot of good music. Why he didn't hit here in America? This one was a hit for Dave Edmunds in the U.S., but why he didn't continue on with the hits here in the U.S., I will never know, because he's got some good stuff. One of my favorites, but I will for sure link this over on the Trampled Underfoot podcast Facebook page.
I'll do the same with Crystal Lee because, it's one of those that you haven't heard it actually, or you probably have, but don't remember.
Right. And, you're right. I don't think there's any sense in us posting links to things that we all know and know where to go get.
Right.
So
the stuff that's kind of weird and out of the norm.
A little offbeat. Yeah.
All right, cool.
Okay. So that was my number 9.
Okay. So what number are we up to now? I know
you're number 8.
All right. So this one was nominated for an MTV Video Music Award for Best Female Video. The genre is metal. It was released in 1988. And, well, the album is called Lita. The artist is Lita Ford. And unfortunately, I must say, because this is sort of the thing that we've talked before. Well, unfortunately or not unfortunately, the song is called Kiss Me Deadly by Lita Ford. Now, This is the sort of thing that back then we would listen to and it'd be like, it pop up like we'd be doing weights or whatever the heck we'd be doing, making iced tea, taking, the parents' iced tea and filling up one of those transparent jugs and making iced tea with all the buddies while they were away and stuff and just hanging around and whatever. And we'd have MTV playing in the background and she'd pop up. And that song was something that none of us would ever admit that we liked back then. And we probably didn't necessarily, but we kind of did because it was catchy. That song has a great sort of setup, the way it works. And it would get me back then. I'd listen and say, oh, well, heck. But no. Everything must be evil. We must not succumb to. But I had this little, selfish little, want to listen to it. So Lita Ford, Kiss Me Deadly. You hear that while you're playing. I went to a party last Saturday night. I didn't get laid. I got in a fight. And then it just breaks into the heavy metal stuff. Very simple, kind of goofy, but that's my pick, man. And I had to do it. I feel a little ashamed, a little bit, but we're putting it out there. I'm telling you what will make me rock and roll.
Well, now, why would you be ashamed of that? I mean, Lita Ford is not any kind of slouch.
Like I said, back in the day.
Oh, it had to be Ozzy or something like that, or it was nothing.
You were safe with Ozzy, right? Because evil was just pouring out, creatures and werewolves and vampires and blood. And so that Metallica, heck, you could, any of those old Anthrax, whatever, Judas Priest or whatever the heck.
But we don't got no time for no chick singers.
Yeah, easy with that, right? Yeah.
Well, on a related note, my number 8, and I've mentioned it many times before, Nowhere to Run by Martha and the Vandellas.
Oh, that's a great one.
Nowhere to run to, baby. I mean, if that song doesn't make you start at least chair dancing, you need to seek medical attention immediately.
It's a great song.
I mean, yes, absolutely. I mean, just about anything by Martha and the Vandellas rates up there with me. But for some reason, Nowhere to Run and it came out in 65. I was 4 years old, so I was basically raised on this. And it's not one of those tunes that grew on me. It was one that I liked from the very beginning. So that's my number 8. Absolutely loved it and still do.
I enjoyed it too. And I have it in my iPod that I can't access. And it came from, when I first heard it, it came from the music, soundtrack for the movie Good Morning Vietnam. I believe it was on that one.
Yes. Yeah, I remember the scene where he introduced it. Yes, I
Yeah. And when I heard that back then, I was like, man, I got to get that, because that movie was so like of the era,
Mhm.
looking into the 60s and whatever, that when we were watching it in the 80s when it come out, and we heard all that music, we're like, man, this is good stuff. Like everything was like, and that bird song, whatever that song is, the bird.
Yep. Now, have you heard about the bird?
Yeah,
Don't you know the bird is the word?
it was great. The whole thing was great. So yeah, I agree with that one as well.
Okay. So number 7.
Number 7 for me is hard rock. Is the I said I was going to say the because to me it's, yeah, I guess that's a proper one for that one. It was released in 1982. The album was Saints and Sinners, and the artist was Whitesnake. And I don't know why I didn't, for some reason I erased. You know what I did? I erased all the titles from that point up of the frickin' songs that I was, anyways. It was, I don't know where I'm going, but I sure know where I've been.
Oh, here I
And
go
my
again.
promises. Yeah. So that would be my number 7. That song, if I'm driving and I hear it and it starts with the
Mhm.
synthesizer,
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, all systems ready, checking fuel levels, you know, and once it hits, ba-da-dum, ba-da-dum, with a here
Yep.
I go again on my own. And when it starts with that whole bit, I'm rocking, man. So to me, that one, I always stop to listen to that song. Always.
I will guarantee you I will turn that one up as well. But it didn't make my top 10 list. I've got it on my iTunes. And one of the things that I did to kind of prep for this was I went to my iTunes and I looked and I sorted by the number of plays. And that one is in like the top 15 or top 20, somewhere in there. I listened to that tune a lot, but I didn't automatically think of it when it was time to make up this list. So it's not even an honorable mention for me, but it is. I will turn that one up, but it's there. To me, there are some that are even better.
To us, it was a classic. Again, growing up in the 80s, or coming of age, let's say, and coming into and watching the music video, because MTV played a big role in the whole thing. And what he's talking about in the song, it's, it was all sort of surface,
Sure.
relatively in the shallow area, and just, but that song has some, it puts you in a certain mood, and the video's got his hot,
Mhm.
model dancing around, and it was a great. So we can't forget that. If you're from, growing up in the 80s, you can't forget that.
You can't forget the era. Yeah. See, and only a couple of these that I've picked that have a official music video that I'm aware of, because a lot of these were before the music video era, and one or two was after the music video era. After MTV and before YouTube really took off and what have you. I mean, but
So you picked. You mean you have some that are after the fact?
well, there are a couple here. Well, yeah, the newest one I have on my list is from 2004.
You see, that's a funny thing, and I might agree with you. I don't know when we get there, but to me, music ended in at the extreme in the early 90s. It was done. I was gonna listen to the backlog for me. I listen to new stuff. Like there's bands that I like, more, but to me, my enjoyment, my deep level enjoyment that I could, is from really the 80s back.
Yeah.
And for a very long time, it was very strictly 1960s music. I've forgotten all like,
Yeah.
I know a little bit of what I used to even, I mean, I'd spent time with everything from Dylan to whatever, just sitting there and listening to stuff that my buddies probably wouldn't care for or
Yeah.
never did. Um,
Oh
whatever.
yeah. And it must be said that this list reflects right now. This is a snapshot in time. If you'd have asked me 2 years ago, there'd have probably been 10 completely different tunes. And if you'd asked me 20 years ago, there would definitely have been 10 completely different tunes.
Yeah.
Because, your taste change, your style change. Sometimes you got to go back and think about something. Sometimes a song will pop into your brain and you go, man, I haven't heard that in a long time. And my number 7 is one of those.
Okay.
And that is, and some folks may go, are you kidding me? But no, I dig it, and I dig it a lot. And that's Smooth by Santana featuring Rob Thomas from
Oh, interesting.
1999. That was one of the first songs I played on the drums when I got my kit. It was, and that was one of the deciders that made me go get one. It's just a fun song to play along with. I would put the headphones on and just drum along to that tune over and over and over again. Drove my wife nuts, but she's a bagpiper, so we had that balance. But Smooth featuring Santana featuring Rod Thomas, I like his voice, and he has a good voice for that song. And then Carlos Santana on the guitar. What more do you have to say? But that's one of those tunes that's guaranteed I'm going to crank it up and listen to it at max volume.
It's a great tune. I would not have even, it wouldn't have even reached my top 15 or 20, or I would not have gone in that direction. However, it is a great tune.
Mm-hmm.
My Santana enjoyment ended at the Healer album,
Mm-hmm.
which he participated in because it was actually an album from John Lee Hooker.
Uh-huh.
And he had another track on that one. I forget which one. Was it Smooth on that album? What
No.
album is this?
I don't know. I never bought the album.
Okay,
This was right about the time I started getting into iTunes. I downloaded the tune and put that on my list, and away I went. I never even looked for anything else on that album. I just had to have that song.
So I liked the old Santana. I've not continued the progress with the Santana. It's one area where I stopped. I just would listen to the stuff from the 60s and 70s, and I had those, and they were like my little pleasure to listen to, and the guitars and the whole Afro, congas and this and that mixed with the rock and the organs and the jazz. And then after a time, after that, I never really, so I wouldn't have picked it, but it is a great song.
Well, Carlos Santana is pretty eclectic, man. He has varied taste. He's done everything from straight up rock and roll to what you would call traditional salsa music with the addition of electric guitar.
Mm-hmm.
And albums, he's got albums that run in all kinds of different directions. But he made his name in the 60s. He basically made his name at Woodstock.
Mm-hmm.
But and after that, the first album that they released shortly after Woodstock just exploded. And then, the sky was the limit. And then things kind of petered out for him and went up and down and up and down and up and down. He always continued to perform. But just for some reason, that tune, when it comes on, volume's getting turned up. And that's all there is to it.
Very cool.
So.
All right.
Okay, so what is your number 6?
So my number 6 was released in 1975. The album is Who Loves You, and the artist is The Four Seasons. And it was the song, which I erased the title, so I'm not going to say it properly, but Late December in 1963.
Oh, what a night. Yes.
Oh, what a night. That song gets me rocking. Like, I listen to that, the drum beat, and the piano coming in, and then the vocal switch off of all the bandmates. Bad to the bone. I like it too because Frankie Valli had a short little part, and the drummer reveals an amazing singing voice. They all sang. They were all awesome. I just like that song. I like that song. I know it also teeters on the era, probably. Wait, what year did it come out? Did I say 1970? So it's on that balancing sort of tightrope of falling into the genre of your favorite style of music, disco?
I don't consider that a disco song, but yeah, it was pretty poppy,
Mm-hmm.
but it was very good.
Yeah.
Um,
I just it's a great. There's a lot going on there, and the vocals are excellent. The song just gets you. If you're in your car, I don't know if you've ever gone, like, let's say Linda and you're okay. We got to go out and this and that, whatever time, and then you sit in the car and you turn on the radio. If that song, when you turn it on and you hear that beginning, it would be a sin to change the channel, the station.
I've always liked Frankie Valli. Something interesting about him, though, I don't know if you've ever noticed that when they release a single, if he is the lead singer, it's Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons. Frankie Valli was not the lead singer of that song. So when the single came out, it was the Four Seasons,
Mm-hmm.
because it wasn't him as the star. You're right, he had a couple of small parts in the chorus and in the verse, but he was mainly in the background role. So this was the Four Seasons. It wasn't Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons. And it's odd because I never had you pegged for a Frankie Valli kind of guy. He's got some good stuff back in the 60s.
Everything from the 60s and 50s, like Dion, just all of that, I listened to.
Oh, yeah?
I've forgotten most. Yeah, I mean, all of it.
I was raised on it.
Yeah, I listened to all of that. In fact, that stuff was, I mean, and the reason I did that was, well, I liked it, but also because it's a foundation for the rock and roll that came. I mean, I really was a student of, in a selfish way too, like people would come up and, hey, Eloy, listen to this new funk song. And I'd be like, no. And I'd stick, it was like, my friends thought that I was very closed-minded musically. But the problem was that I was studying what I wanted to learn, and I couldn't be bothered with all these other like things happening. I wanted to study in my way, unlearned, by the way, uneducated and unlearned, but I wanted to consume the influences because my idea was that I wanted to have those influences come out in me, in my musical journey and all that. Musicians are kind of, flaky that way. And so I pissed off a lot of people with the Rolling Stones thing. I mean, and other things.
Taste is taste. But see, you went and did it to me now. You mentioned Dion, and that made me think Dion and the Belmonts. Why the heck isn't Run Around Sue on my list? Run Around Sue is a fabulous tune, but I won't get into that because
it is a great list. Well, frankly, when you mentioned Martha, was it Martha and the Vandellas that you mentioned?
Yeah.
Now I forgot the thing that popped up. Oh, the Temptations.
Oh yeah.
With all those hits that they had, My Girl's a little bit slow, but he sings so rough at one point. David Ruffin, I think it was his name. He sang with such, power. That's a great song, but there's other songs. So I thought of that too, but whatever.
Yeah. I mean, we can do all kinds of, we can spend hours talking about this stuff.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's a lot there.
But, oh yeah, a whole lot there. So I guess that brings to my number 6, which was 1969 CCR Green River.
How's Green River go?
Take me back down with the cool water flow.
Oh, okay.
Do 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 do. There's a lot of Creedence that I love. Born on the Bayou, Looking Out My Back Door, Willie and the Poor Boys, Down on the Corner, whatever you want to call it. The whole catalog. But if I had to pick one tune out of the bunch, Green River would be it. That's getting turned up when we're cruising down the road. That's all there is to it.
I thought you would have picked out of those. See, because that's not one that I would have I did think of CCR, but I said no, I've got other things to do. I'm going to be exposed and pop up with Lita Ford and so on and so forth. I'm just going to sit and I'm going to tell the truth, man. I'm going to tell the truth. But I did think of CCR, but as far as that, there's so many other more intense numbers that they have.
There are some that are a lot more intense, but what I like so much
Looking
about
out my back door as
looking
well.
out my back door, yeah. But the reason I like Green River so much is because you listen to how they're playing, they sound like they just don't care.
Yeah, that's true.
And
That one.
you are always cooler when you don't care. It's like, we're going to come into the studio, we're going to lay down some rock, I'm going to wail out some lyrics, then we're going to go home. And that's what it sounds like they did. Now, I don't know what happened behind the scenes. I don't know how many times they remade it. I don't know how many people came back in and did guitar fills. I don't know, did somebody take out drums or any of I don't know any of that.
Yeah.
But it sounds like a good time was had by all. They just didn't care. They did what they had to do, and they went home. And that's what I like about that tune.
Fair enough. I mean, Bad Moon.
Bad Moon Rising is another excellent tune.
You know why I like them though? It's a funny thing. Saturday morning cartoons.
Mm-hmm.
They had this, and I can kind of sort of reach out and pick the memory out from the ether. They had a cartoon commercial for Hanna-Barbera or something like that in the 80s. And every morning they'd play like this little thing, either Bad Moon, I don't know, one of the CCRs. I can't pluck it from the ether at this moment to tell you exactly, but that's my first exposure to CCR. So
really,
it sounds ridiculous, but that's how I came to listen to them. That sounds ridiculous. That's how I came to listen to them.
My intro to CCR was my dad fell in love with the song Down on the Corner, and he bought their album, Willie and the Poor Boys.
That's a great song.
We wore that sucker out because he put it on, and I'm like, this is good. And I was like 8 years old.
Can you hear it? Dun, 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 dun,
yep.
Exactly.
And for my first 10 years, I didn't know what half of the lyrics were, let alone what they meant.
But it rolls, right? It flows.
It just flows. And I was like, this is excellent. So when he was gone, I had the headphones plugged in, and I'm listening to that album, the entire album, everything from Down on the Corner to It Came Out of the Sky. And I mean, just everything else. It was a fabulous, fabulous album.
I have it in my head right now. You don't need a nickel.
Just hang around. No, you don't need a penny just to hang around. But if you got
a nickel, lay your money down. Over on the corner.
There's a happy noise. So, okay.
See, now that one is, I'm going to give you the stamp of, not that it matters, but I'll give you the Eloy stamp of approval, because not only did you talk about that, but it penetrated my brain, and I have it in my head now. I'm listening to it in my head right now.
So
in stereo.
Those were each of our bottom fives. Now, thinking about them, would you have changed any of those around at all, or gotten rid of any of those today, now that you're thinking about it a little bit?
I feel cleansed that I exposed the Kiss Me Deadly by Lita
Ford. Yeah. Okay. Now, see, I personally, I think I don't know that I would have bumped any of these, though. That's the problem. And that's why this is such a hard list. I mean, you guys really want to try this exercise. Be honest with yourself and sit down and try to figure out your top 10 favorite feel-good tunes. Run Around Sue needs to be on this list, but there's nothing on this list I'm ready to bump off. So what can I say?
I'm not ready to bump them off either, because I was honest with the ones that when I thought of it, and they were the ones that would pop into my head, and then I thought of the memories. There's many others though, but you have to limit it at some point, because you're not gonna, you're not gonna win. You're
just not. You're just not. Okay, so we're ready for your number 5.
All right, so hard rock genre. Released in 1981.
Okay.
Album, I Love Rock and Roll by Joan Jett and the Blackhearts. I Love Rock and Roll.
I I'd try to hate you for that, but I can't.
I'm trying to be honest. I'm trying to be
Yeah.
honest.
I can't argue with it, man. That's a good tune.
Yeah,
It's a
and
good tune.
yeah, man. Yeah, I'm telling you. I mean, when I heard it, it's the only one. But here's the thing: in the '80s, I hate to bring it back to the '80s, but it's my only point of reference. Let's say, in the '80s, when we would turn on the MTV or we would walk in on the MTV, it was playing all over the place. The music video was, and when we would see that lady in tight '80s leather
Mhm.
singing, how she's gonna take that young boy with her and teach him what's what.
Mhm.
I wanted to be that guy. And she was like a rocker. She had this black hair and she looked like just sexy as hell. And with the leather, and she was singing
Mhm.
like a beast. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, she rocked.
Yes, she did. That song that song, and we've talked about it before, because that album is on my top three, my bottom three. The one of my biggest disappointments for the album. That song made me go buy that album. And as far as I'm concerned, it's the only good part of that album. But I won't rehash that. I
Right.
can't argue with you at all, man. It was all right there. Boom. I mean, nailed it. The guitar playing. She wasn't a girl with a guitar. It wasn't used as a prop. She played and
And the
she
leather,
sang
dude.
her tail off.
And
Yeah,
the
I know,
leather,
I know, I know. Yeah, the
the
leather
leather,
is
the
great.
hair.
And Eloy, not only that, she probably had that new car smell too. So,
I mean, as a kid, I'm sorry,
yeah,
you can throw out as many like there's one thing you're listening to music, but when you saw the visuals of her and she's like, "Come on, little punk boy, I'm gonna teach you what's what." She didn't say as much, but the song sang it, and they're talking about rock and roll, and it was great, dude. It was great. I was
so
ruined. I was
what 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 year did that come out again?
It was 81.
81. So you were like, man, you were like 6
I
years
was
old.
6 years old. Well, remember that played
Oh, it
for
played for a long time. Yeah.
that played throughout the decade.
Yes, it did. And it's probably still playing somewhere because you could not escape that song.
Yeah,
That
well,
was
it
one
played
of
on
those escape.
what do you call it? Repeat
Yeah,
on
on
MTV.
rotation. Yeah, and
Yeah,
then one after MTV stopped actually playing music and music videos. Dude, I don't understand. What was it that made that song hit so hard? Because, and the reason I'm asking that is because you get a song like Dust in the Wind by Kansas that they played just as much as they played I Love Rock and Roll. If I hear Dust in the Wind come on the radio, I'm changing the channel. I can't listen to it. It was driven into my skull too many times. I'm tired of the song still. But what is it about I Love Rock and Roll that makes us turn it up? I
it's
don't.
the da 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 da,
It must be.
and then the drumming
Mhm.
and what she's talking about, and
Yep.
then the what do you call it, the anthem
Mhm.
of
Yeah.
singing.
Basically, I love rock and roll.
It
Yeah.
is the perfect embodiment of middle fingers up in the air to, the establishment out there as a young kid, punk kid, or whatever you want to call it,
Yeah. Okay.
and plus she was sexy as hell.
Well, okay. Yeah, there's that. There's that. I won't deny that.
The leather, dude.
Okay. I don't know if my number 5 can compete with that. I think it can. To me, it does because it's guaranteed from the first note. This is getting cranked up. And it's a 3 generation song, believe it or not. Train by Blackfoot from 1979. It was, to me, one of the best Southern rock tunes ever.
Never heard it in my life.
Really? That shocks me. This
Or at
one
least
will get linked. Train opens up with a harmonica riff. It's about a 30-second long harmonica intro. And That was written by Shorty Medlock, who was a phenomenal performer on his own. His grandson, Ricky Medlock, is lead singer for Blackfoot.
Okay.
Train, train, take me on out of this town. Do, 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 do. Huge Southern rock anthem. I will make sure to link this
Yeah,
over on
like that one.
Trampled Underfoot podcast Facebook page. The minute it's playing, you're going to go, oh, yeah, I remember this.
Well, let's see. Let's see if that's
But
true, because it doesn't ring a bell.
It is a hard driver. And I mean that Southern rock genre, it's just embodied in this song with 3 lead guitars with that hard drive and rhythm and Ricky Medlock's vocals. It's just, that's all there is. You know, it's 100%, I'll say it, balls to the wall rock and roll. So,
All right. I'll check that one out for sure.
okay.
All right.
So your number 4. We're getting up here to crunch time, man.
Well, I walked, it was Sweetwater back in the day, and it was probably around 1983, 84. It was probably in that time, and we used to walk all across Sweetwater. I don't know how I got it in my hand, but it was probably a friend said, check out Def Leppard. And I grabbed that cassette and put it on in my Walkman. I don't even know when Walkmans came out. I had my Walkman that I'd carry with me all the time. And I was walking down 109th, and I know exactly where I was walking. That's how impactful this was, because I put it in the cassette into the Walkman, and I pressed the little play button, and it started right where it was at with Pyromania.
Oh,
And when I heard that, it was it. I was a Def Leppard fan. So
rock on, rock on.
Yeah.
Me crazy, yeah.
It
Yep,
was
now you got me singing it too.
1983 release, Def Leppard.
Pyromania.
No, actually, the album was Pyromania. The song was Photograph.
Photograph. Oh, Photograph.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Wow, that was a good album. That was a very good album. I was in the Army, my first enlistment. When it came out, I was still living in the barracks. It was before I got my ex-wife. My family moved down to Fort Ord, where I was stationed.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a little PX right there next to our unit area. And you walked in there, that album cover was all you saw. It was all over the record rack. And you couldn't get away from it. And Friday night in the barracks, there'd be about 4 people blasting that album. So you could walk from one end of the area out there in front of the barracks and just hear which song, where did they drop the needle on the album, you know, because there'd be 4 different songs from the same album playing at max volume. Just, you couldn't get away from that album.
It was a big deal. It was a big deal because the quality was huge. And then, I mean, the songs were catchy, but they were rockers. And then they blew it up with Hysteria, the following album in the mid to late 80s. And That's All She Wrote, man. That was like astonishing. Yeah.
You know, it's funny. I never had to own that album back then. I don't own it today. I have a couple of their tunes on my iTunes, but I never bought the album because I didn't need to. I could hear it anytime I wanted. Everybody else had it, you know?
Yeah. It was a great song, and it was impactful to me because I was like, wow, you know? So,
yep.
All right.
Yep. Good pick. My number 4 is a little bit different and a little bit odd. I didn't hear this until we were stationed over in Germany. So we're looking at probably 1989 because it was at the first house we lived at. And it's released in 1978, Dreams I'll Never See by Molly Hatchet.
Okay. I've never heard it.
Now, it does about 3 or 4 different tempo changes over the course of the song. But the Danny Joe Brown is the vocalist. He also epitomizes Southern rock. The first song on the album is called Bounty Hunter. And so the first words on the album are, hell yeah, and then he gets into singing the tune. But Dreams I'll Never See was kind of a remix and remaster of an Allman Brothers tune from 1969 called Dreams. They kind of fit some more lyrics and they reworked it a little bit, changed the melody slightly. And it's just one of those tunes that you think is going to be slow and mellow. Then suddenly it picks up. There are some wild guitar solos and the tempo speeds up. And next thing you know, your foot is on the floor and you got the bubblegum machine going in the rearview mirror going, another ticket. So, but it's one of those tunes that when it comes on, it's like, I gotta play it again. It's a 7-minute long song too. It's not a short, quick one. It's a little over 7 minutes long, but the minute it's over, it's like, no, we got to rewind that. I got to hear that again.
You're going to have to link that one as well.
Okay.
Let's, I don't know what do you think about this? So you have 10 and I have 10. What if we did one post and linked the explanation of our list of your pick of your list? And I'll do mine. And then in the comments, just drop them down there. And if somebody wants to, because I'd like to go through your list and just listen to them and kick back and just listen to them and see how it progresses. And that'll help me. Yeah.
I'll do what I can. I'll see if they're on here. I'll see if I can find them all on YouTube. I should be able to. I don't think there's anything there that's that obscure. A couple of my honorable mentions are, but
likewise, if you guys would like to participate, also hit us with your top 10 list if you think through it, and also you could link them into either Mark or mine or both or whatever, and like just tell us what your top 10 are, and let's see what people think, because it would be interesting to see what people choose out there as well.
Because you can comment on those posts over on our Trampled Underfoot podcast Facebook page. You can comment and we'll see them for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a great idea to do because, why not? Let's see what other people, what their musical tastes are in the top 10. Remember, it's the top 10 that makes you get up and go, get in the car, drive down the highway, that kind of sort of vibe.
Okay. All right. So we're each up to our top 3. No pressure.
No pressure.
This is the cream of the crop. This is the stuff that has risen to the surface. Let's see what you got. What's your number 3?
You will not beat this. I know this is not competition, but I feel competitive right now because you just set it up for you. What you just did was you upped it, one notch by saying, all right, let's see, there's no way you're going to be able to surpass this one. So let's see. This one, genre is classic rock, they say, and whatever you think of that classification, well, we'll see, but that's what they classify it. It was released in 1978.
Okay.
And the artist is Queen.
Okay.
And the song is Don't Stop Me Now. I'm a rocket ship ready to explode like an atom bomb.
Good choice. Anything by Queen is a good choice.
Yeah. Can you hear it?
Yes, I can.
I'm burning through the night.
Yep.
200 degrees. It's just freaking awesome. I'm not even attempting to. I'm singing like you would in the shower, but
yes, nobody could do Freddie Mercury like Freddie Mercury. And that's just all there is to it.
I mean, what a great song.
Yeah.
So that will get me. I don't know about you. If I'm driving and I hear that, I'm freaking down the highway.
It is one of those feel good tunes that you do have to play at a high volume, because pretty soon you are going to start believing the lyrics.
Yeah, because it's telling you,
stop me now.
Yeah. No, it's telling you, right? It's telling you you're a rocket ship. You're out of control.
Yeah.
Have a good time, good time. You're being sort of like pushed on to the freaking to the limit, man.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's my song. So
I
what?
can't argue with you, man. I can't argue with you.
I mean, it
Yeah.
gets me every time.
It's not a competition, as I said, but I think my number 3 is going to surprise you. It's also the newest song on my list from 2004.
Okay.
Heaven by Los Lonely Boys.
Oh, that's a great song.
I love it. I mean, I have revisited that tune over and over and over again. The three brothers, I mean, you have a bassist, a guitarist, and a drummer. I
Yeah.
love their backstory.
I don't know
And
the story.
they're just good. Well, their dad was a performer,
I have a story for you, but I'll about the
and
exact thing. But go ahead.
and he just decided that his kids were not going to be a bunch of bums. They're not going to be a bunch of gangbangers. They're not going to be a bunch of lazy good for nothings. They're gonna work.
Yeah.
And they got into music, and he said, "Okay, if you're going to do it, let's do it." And he pushed. He wasn't a backstage dad because he was a professional on his own. He was doing his thing. And they made it. And that song Heaven hit hard. And when I first heard that first opening riff, do 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 do, that was it for me. I was sold about who the hell is, who is this? And still to this day, I keep coming back to it, man. I gotta crank it up because it's one of my favorite tunes.
So I'll just say that I agree with you 110%. It's such a well-crafted song and well-recorded and catchy, and it's a different. It's harking back to a sort of like, I guess I don't even know where to say. There's elements of Santana in there. There's little elements going on. There's little elements. I loved that song. My little story, briefly, is that I was recording a song with a bunch of bandmates and the bass player and stuff, and I recorded this lead guitar, and I recorded, and he comes to me and he says, "Dude, you know what that lead guitar that you recorded?" I said, "Well, what about the lead guitar? It sounds like Los Lonely Boys, dude." And I'm like, "What do you mean that Los Lonely Boys? I played the lead. It is what it is. It came out. Why? Because I'm being melodic with it." He says, "Yeah, it just came out like Los Lonely Boys, dude."
Thank
And
you.
he told me, and I'm like, so is that bad? What are you trying to tell me? He didn't say whether good or bad. He just it's that he said it like disappointed in a way. Man, it sounds like Los Lonely Boys, dude. And I was like, what the hell?
You know what? People are wrong all the time, Eloy. It's like I would have been like, "Thank you, appreciate that."
I think I know the song. I'll in private. I'll link you because this I don't have anywhere live, not accessible. But I'll link you the song where I remember that he said that we recorded it, and he says it sounds like it. I'm like, well, crap, dude. I wasn't really. So he put me in a little box of the genre, and he said, "No, man, that sounds like this." And he didn't say bad or good, but he didn't sound completely thrilled with it. So there you have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny.
You should have seen my face. I was like, is that bad?
I can only imagine.
You know, and then I started questioning my playing. I'm saying, so what are you trying to say about my? They play awesome. So why would you be? And I wasn't copying them either. I don't even know why that. Well, whatever. Musicians are kind of flaky-ish.
Yeah, kind of.
So you don't know what. You know?
Okay, what is your number 2? Now we're getting down to it.
Okay.
Now we're getting down to it.
So, you know what's funny? Oh, it's not funny. Okay. I thought because I had rearranged stuff and I didn't know if I had erased a bunch of stuff. So my number 2 is genre new wave, synth pop, alternative, and indie. It was released in 1983. A lot of my tunes are from that, if you notice, are from the early 80s. And even, I mean, it's not like it's... Mm-hmm. The album was called Burning Bridges. Artist was Naked Eyes. And the song, one of my all-time favorites, and because I remember it for many reasons, is Always Something There to Remind Me by Naked Eyes.
Okay.
Have you heard that song?
I've heard the song, but I don't know about by them.
Oh yeah, it's the classic. Well, classic is a misnomer, but it's the 1980s version of "Always Something There to Remind You," where it's synthed out,
Do 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 do.
and the drums are like electronically enhanced, where it's got that reversed sort of like suction sound, whatever you want to call it. That so when I was little, I was, you know, at my mom and I were at my aunt's and grandparents' house for a short time. There
Uh-huh.
was parental, issues, disagreements. So it was around that time, 1983,
Yeah.
and for a short spell. And every Saturday morning, I'd wake up and turn on the TV, or they'd turn it on for me. And it was cartoons, and then after was Casey Kasem's. And my first sort of like listening and watching that song was on the Casey Kasem's top 10 or whatever it was, and I heard that song come on. And then also on the bus ride to or from school to the house, I would hear that the bus driver would always play the radio, and I'd hear that song along with other songs like Flashdance and
Yeah.
it's such a weird thing. I am very much of the 80s in that respect, where when I started to realize things, the consumption or the flow of information was coming from everything around me, and it happened to be what was on TV, on the radio, and so on. And these were the things that stuck with me.
Right.
And Always Something There to Remind You was just at the top. I listen to that and I want to hear it all the way through and repeat it. I'll listen to it twice or three times over with no problem.
Now, I've heard it done by a couple of different bands. The band Naked Eyes did not ring a bell with me at all. But as you were describing it, I found it and I listened to just a brief, like a 5-second little. That's the one that I remember.
Okay.
That's the version that I remember, but the band name just didn't ring a bell with me.
Well, they were not the first ones. It was written back in the day in the 50s or 60s originally.
Right. But that is the tune that I remember. So I remember it coming out. You said that was was it released?
1983. Let me double check here. 1983.
Yeah, that's wow.
That's my number 2, man. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
And it would have been number 1.
Really?
There's something special about that song for me because the way, well, I remember it from when I was a kid and in various situations. Plus, I would hear it when there was this older girl that sat in the bus that took a liking to me. And I was a little booger, and she would sit next to me and this and that, and I'd hear those songs. And so every time I think of Flashdance, the movie and the soundtrack, every time I hear of like Footloose and all these other things, I think of like that youthful romance and that invigorating sort of life moments and stuff, just an innocent spirit, and so that's how come I guess. Yeah. And it's well put together. It's not just a cheapy sort of song. It's well put together. If you critically listen to it, what they're doing with the drums and the layers and stuff, it's insanity. They're really put a lot of work into that song. So it's well done. It's catchy. And yeah, number 2 for me.
Wow. That kind of is a surprise to me, but kind of not. I mean, hearing you describe it, that kind of confirms the kind of not.
Yeah.
But you being a guitarist, something that is synthesizer based being so high on your list does surprise me.
Yeah, but I'm not one, but don't get me wrong, I'm a guitarist, but I don't consider myself a guitarist. I consider myself just a song enthusiast or a song, you know what I'm saying? Like,
I understand, and that's how I was getting ready to go to, but that was what I was getting ready to say was that also proves that you're a music lover, because that doesn't mean that you're rooted in one instrument.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You can appreciate other instruments. So
totally, dude. Piano and all stuff. Yeah, totally.
Meanwhile, back at the ranch, the only thing I can play is the stereo, so I love it all. So, which leads me to number two, my number two, which is an artist that I'm surprised hasn't come up already, and that is Fire by Jimi Hendrix.
Oh, very good. That's a
Re-
great pick.
Released in the UK in 1970, but not released in the US till 71.
Wow.
And at first, now I've made it no secret that I thought my mother was a prude.
Hmm.
She absolutely hated that song, but she knew that she would never force me to not listen to it. So she would always scream, headphones, 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 because she thought it was too sexual. When it's actually a very innocent song, it sounds sexual, but it's not. It is just as it's described. Noel Redding was the bassist for Jimi Hendrix Experience. He was the bass player. And they were in England at this time, and they were after a performance, and Noel Redding invited Jimmy over to his mother's house. And it was New Year's Eve, and they had just finished a show. And Hendrix asked Noel's mother if he could stand next to the fireplace. She said, yeah, sure, go ahead. But her Great Dane was laying there in front of it. And that's the basis of the song.
I did not know that.
Move over, Rover, let Jimmy take over. It's simply let me stand next to your fire.
Interesting. I did not know that bit.
Yeah.
At all. I did not know that story.
But
And I've read Jimi Hendrix biographies, the thick ones. I never, or maybe I read it and I don't remember, but as of right now, I'm like, wow.
Yeah, he kind of related it to old Mother Hubbard went to the cupboard to get her poor dog a bone. It's like, no, move over, dog. It's my turn.
Let Jimmy take over.
That's it. And he kind of played around, and it has some sexual overtones to it.
Oh yeah, of course, but
it's not really that type of a song. It's just 100% practical. But that from the very beginning, that's it. I was hooked. Done.
It's a great song. You're right.
Oh yeah. And it's guaranteed it's going to get turned up, and I'm probably going to get a ticket.
What was the story with people in the 60s, or like the authorities, or like, that everything with fire, light my fire, fire this, fire that, it had a direct connotation with like fire in the trousers, in the trousers.
I take that. People are going to hear what they want to hear, regardless of what the song is actually about. And it's just like a painting. People are going to see what they want to see. You can take a Jackson Pollock wild abstract, and you might see 3 chickens and a dog, and I see 2 airplanes and a cow. People are going to see and hear what they want to see and hear.
Yeah.
And it was in the 60s, for some reason, there was that stretch about fire.
Mm-hmm.
But then later on, it became the color blue. I mean, there were even songs called Blue, but you had Blue Monday, Blue Morning, Sweet Judy Blue Eyes, another excellent tune, by the way. That's not on my list, but should have been. It just went blue, sky and water and all this other kind of stuff. So I don't know. But just that tune right there is guaranteed to get my blood pumping. And that's all there is to it, because it's nothing but balls to the wall from the first note all the way to the finish.
I have to agree. It's a great song.
So
I would have also added that within, my list of selections. I just didn't go there, but yeah.
And it was hard too, because I mean, we're talking Jimi Hendrix. There are so many of his songs that I could have picked, but for some reason that one jumped up to the top. And I just went, okay, yeah. And it wasn't even his most famous tune.
No.
But it's the one that did it for me. That's all there is to it. So we're down to our number ones.
Here it is.
And this is going to be, I don't know. I think mine is going to take the cake, but I'm sure you think yours is going to take the cake. So let's see.
All right. Well, we'll go ahead and go full circle here. This was produced by Robert John Mutt Lang, and the songwriters were Angus Young, Malcolm Young, and Brian Johnson. The label was Atlantic. The length of the song is 3 minutes and 32 seconds. The genre is hard rock, according to them, recorded in 1980. The format was 7-inch single, and it was released on August 19th of 1980. The B-side of this song was Have a Drink on Me. It was from the album Back in Black and the album Who Made Who. The artist was AC/DC, and the song was all-time favorite hit that will make me rock and roll and move and think of the highway as nothing but a playground for fast, rubber-burning daredevils. You shook me all night long. Top one for me.
It almost made it onto my list. It almost made it onto my list, but Back in Black did it for me. But you know what, man? I cannot argue with you one bit. I cannot argue with you one bit.
Hey, listen, American girls with thighs, just he's setting you up, and then the guitars are saying, "Come on, man, come on, go, 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 go get you one, go get you one." It's a great song.
It is. I will agree with you 100%. I have absolutely no argument with you at all.
I mean, that's all I got to say about that.
That's all you're going to say about that?
I mean, I could say more, but I mean, let's just, say that.
What drove it to the top for you? What drove it to the number? Because I mean, you had some good picks there. What put that one on the top?
Well, because every time I hear it, it does get the blood boiling. I'm like, I can't wait till he says that line about, what is it? She had she had those American thighs line, every time they say that line, it's like, okay, let's go. What comes after that? Come on, let's do it. And the guitars and
thighs, yeah.
It's just a great song, man. It's a rocker of a song. It's meant for driving.
Yes, It is. It is. You're right, and it's guaranteed ticket too. Yeah. I don't know. I'm kind of wishing I'd have put it on my list as well, but I mean, oh man,
she was a fast machine. She kept her motor clean. I mean, it's like, yeah.
I can't argue. I can't argue. Okay, well, mine, I can't get it as much into the background because mine is a cover. I can get into the background a little bit because it had two different names.
Okay.
When it was, the original had two different names. When it was released in 1968 by the original, it had one name. Then it was released in the US under a slightly different name. And that is Voodoo Child Slight Return.
Oh, wow. That was a surprise.
When it was released in the UK, it was released as Voodoo Child, Chile. And it was on the Electric Ladyland album. And that was released in October of 68. But then when it was released in the US in October of 68 on the album, oh, come on.
Electric Ladyland.
Electric Ladyland, excuse me. It was called Voodoo Child Slight Return.
Now, you do know there's two Voodoo Childs on that album. Or
yes.
Yeah, there's two.
Yes, I do.
So you're saying that.
But my number one is the cover by Stevie Ray Vaughan from the album Couldn't Stand the Weather.
Wow, there you go.
And long before you and I ever met, long before I knew there was an Eloy in Miami. We were still stationed in Hawaii. I was flying high on that album. Couldn't stand the weather. And I went into a Radio Shack store to get something. I don't remember what it was. And Hendrix, Voodoo Child, was playing on the stereo there. And the dude and I got talking, and he's like, oh, yeah, Hendrix is this, and Hendrix is that, and Hendrix is the other. And I says, is that CD, cassette? What is it? He says, that's CD. I said, okay. Can I introduce you to somebody? What? I went out in the car and I grabbed, couldn't stand the weather, and I brought it in, and I says, this guy here, and he's looking at the cover, is the only guy I know of. The way I put it at the time was, this is the only guy I know of who can out Hendrix. And he said, no, it's just not possible. And I said, put it on. And he put it on, and halfway through the tune, he's like, this dude is friggin' amazing, man. There is a video of Stevie playing Voodoo Child Slight Return from Austin City Limits. It's called One Night in Austin. That has, I don't know how many million views. Probably half of them are mine. Because I keep going back to that over and over and over. And I have learned more about how people play guitar watching that video than I ever have by anybody trying to teach me or sitting down and looking at things. It's his technique. I mean, if you watch him play that tune, he wears out the pickup selector switch on that tune alone, because he was one of those technical players that knew this note sounds better with all three pickups. This one sounds better. Bring it back up to just the net pickup. Right here, I need to go to the tube screamer pedal. Boom. And he jumps in on it. Perfect, flawless every friggin' time. And I absolutely love that version. But my favorite is from the album Couldn't Stand the Weather. When that first came on, that was just it for me. There were no other Stevie Ray Vaughan tunes on my list because I had to save up for this one.
Well, it's true. It's an amazing song. It's an amazing performance and style, and the energy. There's no arguing with it. I think that it's quite the good, number one. I have nothing wrong to say about Stevie. He rocked it out of the ballpark in every which way. Wow.
I got to ask the folks over here in the side chat live on YouTube on Tuesday nights, 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific. We're over here with live audience, semi-live audience. Some of them, it's debatable. Were we wrong? Were there some that we should have put up there? I know Jim Dockrell's had a few comments. Robin Trower, Bridge of Sighs. I can't argue with that either, man. I mean, I like Robin Trower. What can I say? But did we get him wrong? What say you?
What we'll do is, to wrap up here, folks, we will be placing a list. I mean, I think that we agreed on that, right, Mark? That we'll place the list. So what we'll do is Mark and I will each have a post on our Facebook page, which is Trampled Underfoot Podcast, the Facebook page. What we'll do is we'll write out our list, in the header of whatever post, and then below in the comments, we'll list them out, whatever we want. In fact, you don't have to do all 10. Do whatever you feel appropriate. But you guys, if you have your opinions, you can add those too. Separate comment or it below on our comment, however you want. But let's see what you guys, what the ideas are you have as opposed to what we pick, which I'm sure is going to vary. But that way we learn a little bit more and listen to the tracks that you guys offer us. So
yeah. If you have something that you think should have gone on the list, I mean, that was 20 tunes. That's a long time, a lot of music. But so if we were wrong, when we get it posted up and we get our each of us get our 10 put up there. Throw yours up there as well. We want to hear something. I mean, if you got something that we got to listen to, heck yes.
All right. So listen, folks, we will catch you next week. This was our 100th episode, as we mentioned at the beginning, at the top of the hour. And we thank you guys for hanging out with us and doing this. We'll catch you next week, Tuesdays, here on YouTube at 9:30 Eastern Time, 6:30 Pacific in the evenings. And, well, we also put out our daily audio podcast the same day, every Tuesday at 6:30 in the morning East Coast time, and then it flows all the way out towards us. You could go check us out. We have a website called TrampledUnderfootPodcast.com. You can catch our past episodes there as well. And yeah, we're good.
I think we're excellent. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us, and thanks for giving us 100 episodes. Really appreciate it.
Peace.
Peace.